Okay, let's dive in. What single decision, the one almost everyone celebrates, actually holds the potential for maybe your biggest personal earthquake?
You mean something like marriage? We dress it up with flowers, with vows.
Exactly.
Right.
But what if that legal structure, the one the state provides, isn't quite the equal partnership we imagine? What if it's, well, subtly rigged?
It's an interesting point. Societal structures, even the ones built on ideals like love, often have these unseen gears, don't they? Mechanisms that just produce unequal results.
Yeah, it's not about bad intentions necessarily.
No, not individuals. It's the architecture, the system itself.
Okay, picture this then. Total reset. Marriage is now just a 2-year contract. You both say yes, you renew.
No
Simple.
penalties, no courts.
Right. No shame if you decide, nah, not for me anymore. How many men, honestly, do you think would quietly just not renew?
That thought experiment really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? That gap between, wanting lifelong connection and feeling legally irrevocably trapped.
Remove that exit friction, and
Mm.
maybe the real feelings surface.
The underlying truth about whether it's working, about autonomy.
I was there. Seriously. Ring shopping.
Yeah.
Got completely sucked into the whole happily ever after thing.
It's a powerful narrative.
Totally. Then I bumped into a friend, married guy, seemed totally content, and he just casually drops that he'd felt lost, like adrift, for a decade.
Oh, that's heavy.
Right. Suddenly, the sparkle on that ring looked different.
Was I just chickening out? Or did I accidentally glimpse something real, something we're sort of trained not to see?
Well, as Jung might say, we often confuse the idea of marriage with the actual territory, the lived experience.
The cultural script versus the day-to-day reality.
Exactly. Those ingrained ideas can really blind us.
We talk about equality like it's a given in modern relationships. But what if the legal bones, the actual framework marriage is built on, is inherently lopsided?
Well, historically speaking,
Yeah.
marriage laws doesn't exactly spring from a place of equal partnership, did they?
Yeah.
Originally, the husband often had most, if not all, the economic and legal clout.
And even though laws change? Right, some of those old assumptions, they can still cast long shadows. Think about asset division, alimony, that kind of thing.
It's funny, we agonize over the fine print on a phone contract, right? Hours debating dating caps.
Mm-hmm.
Yet we jump into marriage, this three-way deal. Remember, you, your partner, and the government, often without really asking who actually holds the power, who gets to change the rules down the line.
And let's be clear, the state's interest isn't primarily romantic. Historically, it's been about social order, managing property, inheritance,
Keeping things neat and tidy for society.
stability, ensuring the continuation of the social fabric.
So imagine this choice.
Mm.
You get the societal pat on the back, the good husband label, all the approval. Or you choose real, maybe lonely personal freedom.
That's a tough spot.
The system nudges you hard towards door number 1, calls it love. But door number 2, that's painted as selfish.
Mm.
Isn't exploring your own path, figuring out who you are, kind of the whole point? Like Nietzsche might ask, isn't the self something you're meant to, become?
The pressure to conform is huge. Choosing your own way, especially if it goes against the grain, it often comes with a social price tag.
I had this divorce friend, went through the family court ringer. He said something brutal. Wedding vows are poetry. Divorce papers, a weaponized spreadsheet.
Oof, that hits hard.
Yeah. Dark humor, but it spoke volumes, didn't it? That chasm between the romantic dream and the cold, hard legal reality. What makes that spreadsheet so devastating?
When it falls apart, the legal system kicks in with a totally different logic. It's about dividing assets, allocating debt, maybe calculating support payments.
Your shared life becomes items on a ledger.
Exactly. And the legal definitions, what counts as marital property, who has what earning capacity, those can lead to outcomes that feel incredibly unfair on a human level.
So are guys striving to be good partners purely out of love? Or is there maybe this quiet background hum of fear of the judgment that whispers, if they actually admitted that marriage, yeah, it has benefits, but sometimes it feels like a cage. A comfortable one maybe, but still.
Yeah. Fear of social stigma is a powerful thing. It really shapes behavior. Admitting you're unhappy in something everyone celebrates, like marriage, that can bring serious disapproval.
Yeah.
So people just bite their tongues.
We're always told, don't just follow the crowd. But with marriage, the default is still pretty much just do it. Why? Who really gains when we just accept this tradition
Yeah.
without question? And what are the risks we're just sleepwalking into?
Unquestioned traditions often prop up existing power structures, don't they? If you look at why marriage existed historically, who benefited most,
Right.
that can be quite revealing.
It makes you think about arranged marriages,
Mm.
right? We see them as purely practical about resources, social standing, ancient history.
Hmm.
But if you scrape off the romantic paint from modern marriage laws,
Hmm.
are they fundamentally that different? Still about organizing society, managing resources.
Well, romantic love is definitely the defining ideal now. But yeah, the legal and economic machinery underneath, it still reflects society's interest in stability and how resources flow and keeping social structures going.
Look around you at married friends. How many men seem genuinely unbound,
Yeah,
free?
Jif, of course.
Sure, but how many seem to have settled into this kind of comfortable routine, this domesticity, that if you squinted might look a bit like capture, a gilded cage maybe, labeled stability?
One person's security is another's subtle confinement. The feeling of freedom within that structure varies hugely. Yeah.
Okay, you value your freedom, right? Most people say they do, but think back. How many big life decisions, especially about commitment, were kind of nudged by family, by what society expects, maybe just fear of being alone? Was getting married, if you did, purely your uninfluenced choice?
Our choices are almost never made in a total vacuum. Those pressures, those scripts we internalize, they play a huge role, especially with big cultural things like marriage.
So here's the trade-offs, starkly put. Societal thumbs up, the wedding ring, maybe even while your own inner spark dims a bit, versus potential loneliness, being seen as odd for choosing your own way. The system clearly prefers option A. What do you value more, the external validation or your own authentic self?
That conflict society versus self, it's ancient, isn't it? Choosing authenticity often means you have to be willing to face down some disapproval.
Go online, you'll find endless articles defending marriage, its sanctity, its benefits.
Absolutely. Passionate defenses.
But then you hear the other stories, right?
Right.
The hushed ones, often brutal, coming out of family law courts. Are these two things separate realities? Or maybe just two sides of the same coin, a system that promises love but ultimately delivers legislation?
The range of experience is vast. It really highlights the gap between the idealized picture and the often messy, complex legal and emotional reality on the ground.
Think about this. Would you sign a business contract, a really complex one, with exit clauses that could absolutely ruin you, clauses you barely understood?
You'd want a lawyer, wouldn't you? Several lawyers, maybe?
Exactly. You scrutinize every word. Yet a marriage certificate, which can have far, far bigger financial and personal consequences, often signed a rosy haze of emotion. Why don't we apply the same caution?
That emotional investment is powerful. The romance, the ideals, they can create a kind of blind spot for the potential downsides, the legal realities.
Look, I believe in deep connection, shared lives. That's beautiful. But I also can't ignore how government involvement seems to twist that sometimes, turning people who loved each other into potential legal enemies. Can both things be true?
That's the core tension, isn't it? Where does the personal relationship end and the legal framework begin? How does the state navigate our most intimate connections? It's a constant balancing act.
I heard a divorce lawyer say once, pretty cynically, marriage is the only contract where the parties are considered temporarily insane by love when they sign it, and the state holds all the power anyway.
Dark. But is there a grain of uncomfortable truth there?
Maybe. When you're swept up in intense emotion, rational thinking about long-term legal stuff might not be top of mind.
Heightened emotions definitely influence decisions. That's just human psychology.
And the trap, if there is one, isn't always some dramatic betrayal. Often it's gradual, a slow chipping away at who you are.
The making it work mentality.
Yeah, making sacrifices for the family, all lauded by society, right? Until maybe one day you look in the mirror and barely recognize the person staring back, applauded for your selflessness, but maybe feeling erased.
Sacrifice is often praised in relationships, but yeah, you have to ask, is this mutual support or is one person slowly disappearing? Socrates warned about the unexamined life.
Right. Is this sacrifice building a partnership or just conformity?
Social media doesn't help, does it? All those perfect filtered snapshots of marital bliss.
The highlight reel. But behind the scenes, how many guys are maybe quietly running the numbers? Alimony, child support, losing half the assets, losing the person they were before the marriage, wondering if the love story was worth inviting the state into their lives.
Those idealized images create such a stark contrast with the potential legal fallout. Sets up unrealistic expectations.
Be honest with yourself. Have you watched married friends, guys you knew, slowly fade, their hobbies disappear, their old spark dims? Maybe you judge them a bit.
It's easy to do.
But what if it's the institution itself? What if it subtly encourages assimilation, blending in, rather than celebrating what makes each person unique?
Traditional roles, even if not explicitly enforced, can sometimes lead to that blurring of identities. You adapt, you compromise, maybe you lose bits of yourself along the way.
I know a guy, built a business from scratch, his life's work, got divorced,
And business.
deemed a marital asset, split down the middle. He said, she didn't just get half my company, she got half my past, half my future. Is that partnership? Or is it something else? Legalized plunder, he called it.
The way assets acquired during the marriage are treated legally can have massive life-altering consequences, especially if one partner was the primary earner or builder.
Let's poke at a basic idea, settling down.
Correct.
For men, is it really about finding peace and contentment? Or could it be, viewed differently, a subtle kind of disempowerment, making men more predictable, more manageable for the system?
Settling down definitely means different things to different people. For some, it's security, stability. For others, it might feel like clipping their wings. A limit on growth, exploration.
We all crave connection, right?
Yeah.
Family, maybe legacy. And the system holds up marriage as the gold standard, the main highway to get there. But is it real security? Or is it more like indentured servitude, dressed up nicely, where the price is your personal freedom, a price nobody names up front?
That desire for belonging is fundamental. Marriage offers a framework, yes. But is it the only one? Is it the best fit for everyone? Probably not.
Think about history. Societies needed men to marry. For social order, property lines, continuing the family name, the whole romance overlay is relatively recent, historically speaking.
Absolutely. The government's vested interest in marriage goes way, way back. It's structural.
Okay, here's a twist, though. Maybe the state isn't the bad guy pulling the strings.
What do you mean?
Maybe the real trap comes from us. Our own fears. Fear of being alone, fear of being rejected, fear of just not fitting the mold. Are we maybe building our own cages brick by brick and then blaming the government for the bars?
That's a powerful thought. Our own psychology, our fears, our desires, they absolutely shape our choices about relationships, about commitment. We co-create our reality, in a way.
So those sacrifices everyone praises, what if they're actually tiny acts of self-erasure, gradually shaving off bits of your unique identity to fit the approved pattern, and the government just provides the official stamp?
Finding that balance between me and we is incredibly tricky. Compromise is essential, of course, but it shouldn't mean annihilating yourself.
You might feel like you're driving the car,
Yeah.
making your own choices.
Yeah.
But look closely. The legal incentives, the social pressures, the financial implications, they're all subtly steering you towards that altar, aren't they? Are you really holding the wheel?
The influence of these big structures, legal and social, it's often way more pervasive than we consciously realize. It shapes the path of least resistance.
Okay, truth bomb time. Maybe the most dangerous contract you'll ever sign isn't one you hand to a lawyer.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the one you sign with your heart, totally convinced by love, while the state is quietly writing the terms and conditions in the background.
The emotional contract and the legal contract operate under very different logic. Understanding that difference, that's crucial.
So, the ultimate question, maybe. If solid data, piles of it, show that marriage consistently put men at a disadvantage, legally, financially, emotionally, but at the same time, it clearly benefited overall societal stability, would you still defend it purely as a personal choice?
That really forces you to weigh individual well-being against the perceived good of the collective, doesn't it? It raises some deep ethical questions about how we structure our core institutions.
If any of this is striking a chord, hitting home, share this deep dive. Let people, especially those thinking about marriage or maybe struggling inside one, know they aren't crazy for feeling uneasy.
Yeah, just having the conversation openly can make a huge difference. Reduces that feeling of isolation.
What if that deep human need for love and connection is being, well, leveraged by a system that needs predictable citizens who pay taxes and don't rock the boat too much? Is your romantic dream actually a tool for social management?
That intersection of personal desire and societal need is complex. Institutions can absolutely shape our choices in ways we don't always see, serving purposes beyond our individual fulfillment.
Which carries the greater risk? The potential loneliness of charting your own course, or the potential suffocation inside a partnership that's legally binding in ways you didn't fully grasp.
It's a calculation everyone has to make for themselves, weighing those potential gains and losses. Autonomy versus commitment.
We hear a lot about toxic masculinity. Fair enough. But what about a potentially toxic system of matrimony?
Well,
One that pressures men into roles that come with huge potential costs the state enforcing the contract seems largely indifferent to.
looking for systemic bias, asking if the structures themselves are fair, that's essential. It's not just about individual behavior.
Imagine signing a lifetime employment contract. If you quit, you're financially ruined, and the employer automatically gets half your savings. Sounds like a dystopian nightmare, right?
Completely unrealistic.
But is it that far off from the financial reality of divorce for a lot of men?
The financial fallout can be incredibly severe, yeah, and sometimes feels disproportionate to the contributions made, at least in the eyes of the person paying.
Think about the compromises you make, or might make, for marriage. Are they building a genuine partnership? Or are they more like installment payments on a cage sanctioned by law? Who's the real beneficiary?
Regularly reflecting on the power dynamics, on who is compromising what and why, that's vital for any healthy relationship, legally bound or not.
Does marriage actually create a better man? Or just a more manageable one?
Yeah.
Easier for the system to handle?
Social institutions often function to create predictability and order. That inevitably influences behavior, sometimes in ways that prioritize compliance over individual flourishing.
I remember hearing a father after a brutal divorce say, "The state didn't just limit my access, they basically took my kids on weekdays." That's not just personal tragedy, it feels like a systemic outcome sometimes.
The legal frameworks around custody and access have profound, often devastating long-term impacts on families and individuals.
What's the real cost of getting that societal approval, that married man status? Is it having your past contributions redefined by a court, having your access to your own children mediated by lawyers, having your future earnings potentially claimed based on a legal decree?
The rights and obligations that come with marriage and divorce fundamentally alter individual autonomy and financial futures.
What about prenups? Are they an insult to love, a sign of distrust, or just common sense? Prudent planning for a high-stakes agreement where the government is inherently involved.
Prenuptial agreements are essentially about clarifying financial expectations upfront. In a legal sense, they aim to protect individual assets and provide predictability if things don't work out.
And no-fault divorce. Sounds fair, right? Nobody has to be the bad guy.
That's the idea, to reduce acrimony.
But in practice, does it often lead to a disproportionate transfer of assets, frequently from men, regardless of who initiated the split or why? It's a procedural outcome, but the consequences are very real.
While intended to be equitable, the application of no-fault laws within existing property division frameworks can certainly lead to outcomes that feel unbalanced to one party.
Who gets to define a successful marriage anyway? Is it you, based on happiness and fulfillment? Or is it the government, maybe just looking at duration, tax revenue?
Success means different things. The state's metrics, longevity, stability, often differ quite dramatically from personal metrics like happiness or growth.
Is marriage really just a personal affair between two people? Or is it more like a heavily regulated industry with winners and losers and vested interests? Who are the main beneficiaries of the system as it stands?
Viewing it through an economic and legal lens reveals a complex system with multiple stakeholders, and yeah, the benefits aren't always evenly distributed.
I heard a family court judge once candidly say something like, "My job isn't to be fair. My job is to apply the law,
Yeah.
partnership, or a roll of the dice with potentially biased rules."
The legal system operates according to statutes and precedents. That process doesn't always align with an individual's subjective sense of fairness.
There's this unspoken feeling sometimes, isn't there? That for a man, marriage can mark this quiet end to adventure, to unbound potential, with the government kind of holding the key to that closed door.
Major life choices always involve trade-offs. Giving up some possibilities to gain others, reflecting on those trade-offs is just part of navigating life.
Have you ever sensed or heard guys admit they feel trapped, mainly because the cost of leaving financial, emotional, societal is just too damn high? Is that the hidden engine keeping many marriages afloat?
The perceived barriers to exit, whether real or anticipated, definitely influence the decision to stay, even in unhappiness. It's an engineered outcome in some ways.
Maybe there's no inherently fair way to dismantle a state-sanctioned union that was fundamentally designed, legally speaking, around asset distribution and dependency, not necessarily a clean emotional break. Maybe the difficulty is the design.
The legal processes for dissolution are focused on untangling finances, property, support reflecting the state's long-standing economic interest in the institution. Clean emotional breaks aren't really the law's primary concern.
So Questioning marriage, really questioning it, does that automatically make you anti-love? Or could it be more? Anti-state control over our most intimate bonds. A stance for autonomy.
That's a crucial distinction. You can critique the legal and social structures surrounding marriage without rejecting the value of love, commitment, or partnership itself. It's about questioning the default container.
Okay, final choice then, maybe. The comfort of societal validation that marriage often brings, or the fierce, maybe difficult ownership of your own life, your own future. Which voice wins out in the end?
That tension between seeking acceptance and remaining true to oneself, it's perhaps the fundamental human dilemma. There's no single right answer.
Once you really see the legal machinery, the financial gears operating behind the romantic curtain of marriage, can you ever unsee it? Can you still view it purely as idealism? And what do you do with that knowledge?
Understanding the practical, legal, and financial dimensions inevitably leads to a more complex, informed perspective. It changes how you might approach it.
Knowing what you know, or maybe suspect, out the system, would you warn a son, a nephew, a close friend about to take the plunge, give them the unvarnished version, or would you stay silent, nod along, because that's what's expected?
That's a tough personal call, isn't it? Balancing wanting to protect someone with respecting their autonomy and their own journey.
Because your silence, our collective silence, about the less rosy realities, the potential pitfalls, the systemic issues, it isn't neutral, is it? It helps keep the simplistic, happily ever after myth going, stripped of all its legal and financial complexity.
Open, honest conversations, even uncomfortable ones, are probably necessary for a more realistic societal understanding of what marriage entails today.
So, what will you tell your sons, if you have them? The fairy tale? Or the truth about government forms, potential asset forfeiture, the life-altering power of a judge's signature?
The guidance we offer the next generation inevitably shapes their expectations and choices. It's a significant responsibility.
What does true responsibility look like here? Blindly following tradition because it's just what you do? Or critically examining these powerful institutions, understanding the rules of the game, and then making a conscious choice, eyes wide open to the legal realities?
Critical thinking, questioning norms, understanding the systems you operate within, that seems vital for making informed choices that align with your actual values and goals.
I've seen it firsthand. Men losing their homes, their life savings, daily contact with their kids, sometimes even their will to go on, all perfectly legal, all following the state's marital framework. It points to a systemic imbalance, doesn't it?
Those documented stories of loss and hardship post-divorce really underscore the potential vulnerabilities within the current system. It highlights the need for awareness, at the very least.
We're fed this single dominant romantic script. But maybe the greatest act of rebellion isn't rejecting love. Maybe it's rejecting the state's definition of love, its attempt to contractually manage our deepest connections.
Exploring alternative relationship structures, focusing on partnership agreements outside the traditional state-sanctioned model, that certainly reflects a growing desire for greater personal autonomy.
So is marriage a government trap for men? I guess the answer depends on whether you've read the fine print and how much you truly value your own freedom compared to societal applause.
Ultimately, whether one perceives it as a trap or a benefit hinges on understanding all its implications, legal, financial, social, emotional, and weighing those against one's personal values, particularly regarding autonomy.
Remember, your worth as a person isn't tied to your relationship status. It's not defined by a government certificate. It's about your integrity, your choices, the courage to live your own authentic life.
Absolutely. Self-worth is intrinsic. It shouldn't be contingent on external validation or conforming to a specific relationship model.
If this felt dense, if it stirred something, maybe listen again. The nuances here are really important, especially if you, or someone you know, is considering signing this particular lifelong contract.
Complex topics often benefit from repeated engagement. New layers reveal themselves.
And if this deep dive resonated, if it put words to a quiet unease you felt, share it. Share with other men who maybe followed the script, played by the rules, and might now be secretly questioning the walls they find themselves within.
Dialogue can be incredibly validating. Knowing others share similar questions or concerns helps break down that sense of isolation.
This has been the deep dive, our aim. To challenge beliefs, especially the ones wrapped up in powerful state-designed institutions, question everything.
Because critical inquiry, asking the tough questions, that's fundamental for informed choices and a deeper understanding of the world we navigate.